What's up, everyone? Welcome to Max's Football Playbook, your go-to spot for NFL content. Today, it's episode 3, and we're going to be doing a Jets off-season plan, building off of the Las Vegas Raiders off-season plan that we just did. But without further ado, let's get into New York Jets off-season plan. First off, their biggest needs, kind of in order, is quarterback, edge, wide receiver, left guard and right guard because their guys are going to free agency, interior defensive lineman, a second one, a weak linebacker, which is basically an outside linebacker, a free safety, and a running back. With our cap cuts, I already went through this. The only person who I really considered cutting was nose tackle Harrison Phillips. However, thinking about it, he's a good veteran, and this defense needs playmakers, and I honestly don't think cutting him gives enough money to replace his value, so I'd rather keep him. Let's start with the trades. The first one I wanted to do was pick 103 for tight end Michael Mayer of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders would do this trade because they already have Brock Bowers and they don't need another tight end. And a 4th round pick is good value for Michael Mayer. The Jets would do this is because they need any offensive weapon, and he could be a good backup or somewhat starter with Mason Taylor. My second trade that I wanted to do, this one involves trading a Jets player away for some draft capital, is trading Jermaine Johnson to the Lions for pick 50. In this trade, we will also have to give up a 4th round pick and pick 178 to make it a little more realistic. The reason why the Lions would do this is because they could add some help for Aiden Hutchinson for that defensive line. And with Jermaine Johnson, he's definitely not the superstar that maybe some people would like for Aiden Hutchinson. However, he could definitely be a starter and could immediately help the Lions, which are a contending team that could win the Super Bowl next year. The reason why the Jets would do this deal is because you're getting good draft capital and pick 50 for Jermaine Johnson, and this team kind of needs to rebuild right now, so it makes sense to trade away some of their older players for some nice picks in return. Moving on to our free agents, let's see who we re-sign. I think they should re-sign John Mechie. One reason, he's cheap, and they do need a wide receiver. Cam Jones, same thing. I don't know why they have him as a linebacker. Maybe he's a linebacker / cornerback, but I view him more as a cornerback. And of course, they need a lot of help in that position, so I want to bring him back too. And I'll bring back Xavier Newman-Johnson because we need offensive line depth. You can never not have enough offensive line depth, so let's bring him back. Also, he's cheap. At quarterback, I don't think we should bring back Tyrod Taylor because I'm thinking about a different bridge quarterback, maybe Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith. But because Hendon Hooker is going to be $1 million per year because of his exclusive rights, free agent, we're going to re-sign him. Moving to running back, I would love to re-sign Breece Hall, but I think he's a little ticked off with this team, as I don't blame a lot of players for being ticked off with this team, just not being good. Probably want to get out of here. So let's try to bring back Negwanu, I hope I'm saying that right, and Khalil Herbert. Herbert would probably be worth 1.5 a year. We'll give him 2 years. He signs, perfect. Negwanu would probably be 1.4. Let's give him 2 years as well. There we go. We have 2 good depth running backs, like maybe running back 4, running back 3, for some good money. Moving on to wide receiver, I want to let go of Tyler Johnson. However, we're going to re-sign Josh Reynolds because he's a good veteran, and this team could definitely use a few veterans, as we're going to try to look to target a wide receiver in the draft. And don't forget, we also got an RFA tender on John Mechie, so we do bring back 2 wide receivers instead of the one that we just did. Here, for tight end, I'm going to let Zone Smart go, but Jelani Woods is a good tight end 3. So here, we'll re-sign him. Let's do $1.6 million, 2 years. There we go. Andrew Beck, listed as a tight end. He's actually their fullback, and because this team uses a fullback, let's just stay with the continuity and bring back Andrew Beck as well. At offensive line, we got to make some big decisions here. I definitely think you got to try to get back Vera Tucker and Simpson, and I think these guys could be realistic re-signs. So in this plan, we're going to re-sign both of them. John Simpson is worth about $8.5 million per year, maybe a little more than that. We'll offer him 2 years. Maybe he should have done more, honestly, but that's all right. And Elijah Vera Tucker is probably worth $12 million, so we'll give him a 4-year deal because he's a little bit younger and we want to keep him for longer. With the remaining offensive linemen, I think we're going to let Wayne Guard go and Okafor go, but I want to bring back Max Mitchell because he's a good depth piece, and like I think I said before, you can never not have enough depth pieces on that offensive line. At edge, this team desperately needs help at edge, so losing anyone would hurt. And Michael Clemens is a good supporting cast edge who doesn't cost much, so let's go ahead and bring him back. At defensive line, we're definitely going to bring back Briggs because he's an exclusive rights free agent and he's a good player for this team. Now, I'm going to let Saunders go because he's an older player and his value is pretty high. Jay Tufele, I hope I'm saying that right, is a little younger and his value is a little less, so I think it makes more sense to pursue him over Saunders. At linebacker, like I do with almost anyone, if you're an exclusive rights free agent, because you're going to cost $1 million per year, we're definitely bringing you back. Quincy Williams, we definitely want to bring him back. 2 years, $8 million seems like a fair deal. Michael Walker, I think we can let go and we can try to find some young linebacker to help out this core. At cornerback, let's get Taylor because he's the youngest of them all and he's also a good depth player. He'd probably be worth like $3 million. 3 years seems fair. And then we got to decide between Oliver and Boyd. In my opinion, Oliver is a little bit better. So we're going to bring him back also for 2 years. And we're going to do $2.3 million for this one. At safety, we definitely got to bring back these 2 guys because they're definitely starter quality. And they're younger players that could still improve for this team long term. Finally, to round it out, we definitely have to re-sign Nick Folk because he's a really good kicker. I know he's older, but I still think he's worth it for 1 or 2 years, so we'll pay him this contract to keep a good kicker around. Unfortunately, as you guys know, as of right now, Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins are still under contract, so we can't sign them. But in this scenario, I would love to sign Kirk Cousins. I think this deal could have the potential to be a cheaper deal because if he gets cut from the Falcons, he's still probably getting paid at least a few million by the Falcons. Another spot that I would like to sign someone is linebacker. Like I said, I wanted to help out this core, and they do need a few veterans to give like a higher floor to this team. So let's get Caden Ellis. He's a good veteran who can coach up the rest of the team, and that's definitely good value. Moving on with our final free agent that we can afford, I think they'll probably be able to open up more cap space by a restructure, but I don't want to predict that. So one position that I think we could definitely help out a lot is the cornerbacks. This team somehow went without last season with 0 interceptions. So who's a guy who can step in, make that cornerback room better, and force some big plays? That's Jalen Watson, and the price is pretty fair with the money we have left. Moving on with the draft, the big picks that we have is pick number 2, pick 16, pick 33, pick 44, and pick 50. That's a lot of value, and the needs that I want to spend this on is probably going to have to be defensive line, a wide receiver, really best player available because that's important. Let's try to get a third safety to back up Cisco and Tony Adams. And then, because Hall left, let's try to get a running back that can start for this team next season. Here, I think you can go with the players, mainly Arvell Reese, Ruben Bain, Caleb Downs, or Jeremiah Love. However, the guy I'm going to take here is Arvell Reese. I chose to take Reese here because their biggest needs is a defensive lineman and an edge and linebacker in specifically. As you know, we did trade Jermaine Johnson. So what's a way that we could replace him? We could take Arvell Reese, who can be a linebacker, but he can also be an edge. He can play a little bit of both. That's why I wanted to take him, because for a team that has a lot of needs, you can kind of have him fill in some of the gaps because of his versatility. With our second pick, I did say we should go best player available, or a wide receiver, or a defensive lineman. So, looking at the board here, there's not really a wide receiver I feel like reaching on at this stage. So let's try to take one in a few picks. But there is a guy who is maybe the best available and definitely fits the defensive need, and that's Peter Woods. We're going to get Peter Woods here because he's going to drastically help out a defensive line that honestly needs a lot of help. I did say I want to go best player available, and I know that getting a third safety, but to me, Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a top 25 player at the very least. Obviously, his position value is a little lower, so let's go take him. The reason I like McNeil Warren is that he's a big playmaker, and he's an old school guy who can cause a lot of big hits, and for a team that specifically needs defensive playmakers, he fits the playmaking mold perfectly. With our first 3 picks, we went defense. We addressed the edge spot. We addressed the defensive tackle. We also got a safety who we can move around, and we can maybe make him at cornerback from time to time. So with this pick, let's spend it on a wide receiver. The best one available is Omar Cooper. To me, Omar Cooper is a top 30 player in this class. He just falls in this draft because I think the consensus is a little lower on him, which is nice for the Jets because, in my opinion, like I said before, they continue to take best player available and stack up that wide receiver room. Here after pick 50, we don't have a pick until 175, so I want to get back down into the draft to get another third. With this pick, let's go running back. A guy to me who is a second round worthy running back, and I can see him starting, maybe not as the most ideal starter year one, but he can definitely improve because he's, a rookie, is Jonah Coleman. Since we're going to be projecting Arvell Reese more as an edge, and this website has him listed as an edge, I think looking at the board, it would be very fitting to get a guy like Kyle Lewis. The reason why we get Kyle Lewis is because he's a smaller player who, very nice about him and kind of scary, is that because he's a smaller player, unlike most middle linebackers, he doesn't really fit the traditional middle linebacker mold, which could mean he could fail. However, he's a very good player and causes a lot of plays. And in college, he was actually used as a nickel cornerback. So in a way, you can also use him as a chess piece that I know Aaron Gled would love, along with the reason why we took Arvell Reese. And Kyle Lewis can play middle linebacker. He could even play outside linebacker. He can play safety. He can play cornerback. Sure, he might not be as good at those positions, but because of the versatility, I really like his potential role on this team. Here, we have 5 picks left. They're mainly all depth picks. So here, I'm going to try to look for best player available, some interior defensive line, and maybe a development quarterback. And looking at the board right here, Drew Aller is left. Sure, he's probably not a guy that you're projecting as your starter, but I like taking a depth piece here who could be a developmental project, and if he works out, maybe you don't have to take a quarterback next year. Backing up what I said, I did want to go interior defensive line, so let's get Cameron Bell out of Arkansas and build up in the trenches. Now, because obviously I didn't take that many proper cornerbacks, let's get ourselves a proper one with Jermaine Matthews. Finally, with our last 2 picks, I do want to take another wide receiver. And looking at the board here, I really like Berrien Brown. The reason why I like Berrien Brown is because he's a really good special teamer. And at this point, you're the guy who has the most potential contributions to this team. And I don't really see any of these guys being a starter. However, I think Berrien Brown has the best chance out of the remaining guys to be a kick returner / punt returner. With our final pick, let's get an offensive lineman. Finally, I wish I could show you guys the recap, but unfortunately, this website decided to refresh, unfortunately. So I can't show it to you guys, but I appreciate you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.